makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ashley Julyan, the founder of the AEJ Group. With over a decade of experience in assisting US Congressional offices with official side communications, Ashley brings a wealth of expertise and effective public engagement tactics. Now Ashley leverages her network and vendor relationships through her company to assemble the best engagement strategies at a competitive rate. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. All right, can you tell us about your background and how you develop your expertise in assisting U.S. official side communications?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So my first day on Capitol Hill was the first day of the 113th Congress. And so at that point, I was with a different firm, and we had been working directly with members of Congress to sell their CRM services and IT support. And then that kind of developed into working with all different third-party vendors that provide constituent communications. And over the course of, many years, I was able to really identify a need in the market for member offices to be able to more effectively communicate with their voters. There's so much happening here in DC, and I think one of the biggest limitations is trying to communicate that back to the constituents that they represent. And I felt like there was such a void in the tools out there, or somebody to be able to orchestrate those tools in a really meaningful way. So actually, at first, once I left my previous company, I had been consulting for a couple different technology vendors on the Hill, just trying to help them understand more of what the Hill environment is like and how their tools directly relate to member offices in the House of Representatives, how congressional offices use that technology, the different use cases and things like that. And so what happened was, at first I was like, well, maybe I'll put together these timelines of over a 2-year period when you should be doing certain types of communications and, considering different, impacts about your district or, the district demographics and things like that. And at first everyone was like, this timeline is great and it's really cute, but can you also just go do it? Be able to put together all these things. I love the idea of, hosting a telephone town hall, but can you also just help me do it? Or can you help me figure out how to get these text messages out? And so really kind of over time, we expanded our portfolio to really help any type of paid outreach and communications that an elected official would want to use to convey their message. And I think one of the big things, is not only working on messaging and name ID and branding, but also being able to help voters stay informed, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of what's going on in DC and how it directly impacts their day-to-day, lives. I think that there's so much that's going on right now in the political climate, and it's obviously such a tense time for folks that they really want to feel like they're being heard by their representative and have that kind of two-way communication. And a lot of the tools that my firm provides are directly centered around that and providing those tools that members need to, make sure that their constituents feel heard. I think that's really one of the biggest things that I've learned recently is just providing those avenues for that two-way communication. And so it's been a wild ride, but I absolutely love it. I wouldn't change a thing about it. And it was just a really funny timeline, the way it all kind of came together.
But what really pushed you to say, because you were working for a company before that, so what pushed you to say you're going to go on your own? Because you could have implemented it for them.
Totally. It was definitely the scariest professional decision that I had ever made. I consider myself a very loyal person, almost like loyal to a fault. And, it's really unusual for somebody, I think, at my point in my career to have been with the exact same firm for, 10 plus years. And so it was definitely the scariest kind of professional decision I had made. But obviously, the only thing I would tell my former self is just go do it sooner, because it has been such a completely liberating experience. I just realized the person that I was in my old role isn't a reflection of who I am. I could just feel that, the walls were kind of coming in, and I wasn't happy with who I was becoming as a leader, and I really needed to make a change. And honestly, I thought that I could do this better on my own and be more successful at it. I think that it's hard for a CRM vendor to try to be a comm shop, which is really what my team is. So I think that, was really hard. There's a lot of limitations that they have to operate within that I don't necessarily have that kind of constraint. We're able to offer, way faster turnaround, more hands-on support. It's just a completely different approach to that same set of tools. You really need somebody who understands how they all orchestrate together and kind of serve as that boutique kind of hands-on layer on top of all the technology that makes all the stuff behind the scenes really seamless for, the users. And my main users really are the congressional staff, but also the elected official themselves. The easier we can make it for them to take advantage of these different technologies and communications tools, the more that they're able to better serve their constituents.
It seems like you put the people first.
Definitely. I mean, it's been a lot. I mean, we will do literally anything for our customers. I think that's one of my favorite things though about my job is working with my clients, and they know how much I love them, especially going out on my own and really taking a chance. Some of the first offices that I worked with, they just hold such a near and dear place in my heart. It was also a crazy timeline because I found out pretty much, I actually just posted this on LinkedIn. 20 months ago, I sent my very first invoice. 19 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. So I found out I was pregnant right in the middle of this after my husband and I trying for forever to get pregnant. We decided to pause. Maybe we would just be cool aunts and uncles that, travel and whatever. Of course, I find out that I'm pregnant. We're so excited. So in the middle of growing this whole company, I also was just growing a child. And so it was the most wild experience ever because I just felt like we were both in it together. It would be doing pitch meetings and then napping on the floor in my office or, going to an event to do a telephone town hall with a client, 9 months pregnant, so big. I was not a cute pregnant person. I was gigantic. I had built a hotel suite for my baby. So it was really funny and so fun. I mean, the universe just has its own plan for you and you just go with it.
I think that the universe think you need a purpose behind it, behind your work. And don't get me wrong, I experienced the same thing. And I remember launching Warmail, and I have my son with me because he was with me. And then I remember one person in Twitter said, that was a great event, but next time don't bring your kids to it. I'm I replied, said, get used to it because you're going to see a lot of him because he's not going anywhere.
I completely understand. It's so funny. Even at the events, I haven't really done a lot. I've really been working primarily through word of mouth. I don't have the kind of funds, to compete with some of these other bigger firms in terms of big splashy events. But I did do my first in-person event this year, and it was so cute because I got to bring Jack with me, and I have this photo of him sitting behind this sign I had printed out of my logo at Kinko's that morning, and I was we're just doing it. But it was great. My parents were there. My husband was there. Our nanny was there. It was like a full family affair. It was amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that as long as you, one thing that I learned with my son get to know Womel from every side of it. He can
Yeah,
actually tell it to you from the top to the bottom, and he knows every single client. And it's
I love it.
fascinating, and it's good for them because they get to see, hey, mom is doing this, so maybe I can do my own thing too. I can do this, and then that get them to move or to do more and more and more. So I think what you are doing is awesome, and
Uh,
don't be afraid to.
yeah, we're just rolling with it. I mean, he is the sweetest. I wear him around my neck every day. I'm a little biased, but I think he's perfect. He's 11 months
Absolutely.
old yesterday, so we're just gearing up for his first birthday party, and it's just been, it really is just like such a unique experience to have him be a part of this too, and like the support from my friends and my family, and even just getting ready for today. It was so funny because I'm going through postpartum, and so like all my hairs are like coming out, and I had to like hairspray my new postpartum bangs down because I was like, they are all spiky. And I'm like, people just don't know like what goes into this, behind the scenes. Like,
Yes.
I think it's funny because like from the outside looking in, people can make so many assumptions about your life and, what you're going through. I think that people, think like, oh, and, I had this great life with my husband and two dogs and a beautiful house and a stable job. And, I really was risking blowing that all up to start this firm. And it really truly was like the best decision I could have made. And even though it was a timeline I never would have put together, there's not one thing I would change
I
about.
think everything, like you said earlier, everything happened for a reason. The universe will guide you where you need to go. So a
Yes,
lot of time we hold back and we don't take the chance, and it's our mistake, and that chance never come back again. So
100%. I mean, I think for me, I just kept thinking like, if I don't do this now, I will always look back and think like, what if? Like, what if
what
I had
if?
this?
That's
And
the I don't like the what if because it bugs you.
totally. Yeah. I'm like not okay. I would drive me crazy. So, for me, it was like, I have to give this a shot as best as I can. And, I just feel forever humbled and grateful for how it's turned out, but also at the same time, like, don't get it confused. Like, you're working as hard as humanly possible every moment of the day. And I think that's the thing for me, that it's like, you know, I will forever put my family first, but like they understand that like right now I'm building a company and building a business, and I need to be grinding it out as much as possible. And I think that's, what gave me the tools to get to where I am today. Like, is just being a dedicated hard worker. I tell my old, former colleagues and stuff, and, be the first one there, the last one to leave. Like, there's nothing, more important than being able to really put in the work to understand what you're doing. I feel like that is something that is sometimes lost on, younger people who are entering the workforce. It's like, if you want to make a difference, you really need to be able to put in the time and grind it out. And, I think that's something, that work ethic, that has really been able to position me where I am now.
Exactly. And I think also that's something, if you're gonna put all that effort into something, you might as well put it to something you create yourself.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, you get it. You're in it. Here we are.
I've been doing it for a few years now. So now let's talk a little bit about your company and what unique value do you believe your company brings to the market?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So the AEJ Group really is able to take a variety of different technology tools, whether it's texting, telephone town halls, print mail, phone surveys, radio ads, billboards, streaming ads on TV, anything that is at your fingertips to communicate with your constituents. Each piece has its own whole set of intricacies, And as an individual item, sure, somebody else would be able to do text, or somebody could do town halls, or somebody could do this or that. But what I think my team does is we bring it together in a holistic approach where everything is layered on top of each other to make sense. It's not just doing something to do it. It's doing it in a way where you have a purpose and a goal, and you have somebody behind the scenes that is a technical expert who is able to execute everything flawlessly, but at the same time have that customer facing attitude of client service and client success, and making sure that, our clients truly feel valued and go above and beyond. I always say after each event that I do for a member, I always say, I know it sounds cheesy, but like, you've got a lot of options out there in terms of who you want to partner with. And so, the opportunity isn't lost on me that, you're giving a chance to my small, women-owned business of former congressional technology staff. I know I'm not necessarily like the big fancy names and things like that. But, what my team does is we guarantee that we can produce better, work product and more effective product to help elevate congressional communications for the office. So, I think what we do is we put all the tools together and we deliver them better than anybody else with a more hands-on approach.
And the reason why you can,
which helps.
That's true. Do you know why you are able to do that compared to bigger companies?
I mean, I think I'm able to do it because I have really focused my portfolio specifically on communication tools. I'm not trying to be out there doing so many things that you're doing it all kind of meh. I think that, what I'm able to do is really focus in and hone in on these specific tools that help affect, positive and meaningful communication. So I think that's kind of why I'm able to do it more, is that I focused in on like what I'm passionate about and what I know I can deliver at the highest quality for my clients, and really have kind of run with that swim lane in mind.
And also, I think also one thing I realized listening to you talking, I think another point will be because you are not big enough to be money driven. Because the moment a small business become a big corporation, let's take, for example, GoDaddy. GoDaddy used to be small and they become public, so they be big, and now customers come second, the investors become the first. So which means that less care goes to your customers and goes to more to the money part, take care of your investors.
For sure. And I mean, I learned that a lot in my last organization, that every decision was having to be made about what made sense for not just the Hill environment, but for so many other things that were impacted by it. And, making investments that had to get approved through all this bureaucratic BS. And, it was just stifling creativity, and it was stifling the ability to react and move quickly in the market. I think that that's something that I see time and time again, is that, Congress isn't on, a bureaucratic cycle of levels of approvals and things like that. Like, things move so quickly, that you need to be a company that's scalable and able to be reactive to that environment. And I think that's something that's really important that sometimes is lost with some of these other companies. I'll see email traffic where, it's days before they get a response, or, sure, we can put this request in, it's going to take a week to complete. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, they need this right now. And like, it's just so shocking to me that so many people are basically conditioned on the Hill to think that these timelines need to be extended to these like ridiculous, unrealistic expectations, when it's like, if you look behind the curtain, it's like, I can get this done literally the same day you're asking to do it. So like, why wouldn't I try to deliver that for my customer? Why would I say, it's going to take a week to upload this email list, or, something like that, where it's like, most of these people, they're trying to make moves quickly. They're trying to communicate with their voters or their constituents. So, I'm really dedicated to pushing not just my company forward, but push everybody forward to try to, go above and beyond when it comes to customer service and client service. I strive for nothing short of perfect, with working with my offices. And I think that's something that they really like about hopefully working with me, is that we try to really be as responsive as possible, try to forecast ideas to them too, of like, hey, I think this might work, or, this hasn't been performing as well. I think we could mix this up here or there. It's been great.
So I know.
I love my job. I love my clients. I'm just a weepy CEO lady.
But also, I know that you talk a little bit about the company focus on communication. Now, can you give us a whole background of the company itself? Like, what is it about? What are the services that it offers? The whole focus of it in general.
Yeah, it's definitely, the base of it is providing effective communication tools for elected officials, but also, campaigns, advocacy groups, anybody who's trying to communicate their message on a broad scale. We give you the tools to be able to do that. So some of our core tools include text messages, telephone town halls, which you may or may not be familiar with, but basically they're these virtual town hall events, similar to like when you have an elected official standing up in an auditorium. You just do it online instead and over the phone. So telephone town halls, phone surveys, radio, digital display ads, print mail, streaming
the full
ads,
package.
digital display. It's just a real full package of tools. And I think, it's ever evolving too. Like, each year there's new technologies that come out, that are able to help make things more effective. Even if it's to go so far as to help, maybe do some streaming ads on displays in doctors' offices that explain what the member is doing to help with Social Security or Medicare and Medicaid, for seniors. It's all these different evolving technologies that you have access to. But I would say, texting is definitely one of the biggest things that we found is really successful. And I think what my team does is completely different than what anyone else in that space is doing. It's just way more hands-on in terms of putting all the puzzle pieces together for the client so that it's, my goal is to make it easy to say yes. So if we do some of the legwork behind the scenes to help make that a more seamless process, I think that's something that we're certainly interested in doing.
Is that something you're pushing more when it's come to the election time, or is it any time during the year?
Honestly, it's a 365 kind of cycle. Certainly communications ramp up surrounding an election, but there's actually these some blackout communication rules that apply to elected officials. So actually 60 days prior to both their primary election and then 60 days prior to the general election, they're in what's called a blackout period. So they actually can't do paid mass communications using their official funds to more than 500 people. That's considered a mass communication. So the only folks that they can communicate with during that time are folks that have already subscribed to those communication channels to that individual member. So a lot of the work that we do is helping to make sure that those individual member offices can build up a solid subscriber base so that those 60 days prior to an election, you're able to communicate, when you want to be communicating, really the most. That's a limitation on the elected official side. Obviously, the campaign side has different sets of, what their busy season is. But I would say on Congress, it's really a year-round kind of communications approach, but certainly things ramp up more, to that 60-day window before they go into blackout.
But so now, can you also share some insight into your approach to vendor selection and negotiation?
Sure. I think what I am very fortunate about is having had experience on the Hill for a long period of time prior to starting this firm. I really at that point had worked with pretty much anyone and everyone in that tech space. that's providing comms tools on the Hill. So I think what was really unique was that I kind of through trial and error, almost had exposure to a variety of the different vendors ahead of time, so that when it came time to forming the firm and putting together the right curated kind of offering, it was easy to know kind of which partner fit in which piece and how to pull it all together. So that part actually wasn't necessarily as tricky as just getting the boost I needed to go out on my own.
But that's something you pretty much have the whole experience behind you for years.
Yeah, I was able to take advantage. So even prior to doing the sales role at my past firm, I had been in a contract negotiation role too. And so I had a really unique exposure to not only the sales side of things and the client management, but also, contract negotiation, as well as just over time in my last role, growing up in with management and having additional responsibilities and learning, the ropes in terms of how decisions are made on a more strategic basis.
So what are your goals for your company? Where do you see it? How do you see it evolve in the next few years?
The sky's the limit. At this point, I'm rolling with it. I think I feel super, super fortunate for where I am now. I love working in the elected official space for the House. I'd love to help bring some of those technologies over to the Senate side as well, because I think that they could really benefit from that. Same with state and local agencies. I think governors in particular, that seems like a great place to be able to expand to. But similarly, I think advocacy organizations and grassroots organizations that also want to help get their message out too, similar to how elected officials work. So, and then obviously we've just started really kind of working with a few campaigns on the political side. So expanding there as well. But, we'll see. The sky's the limit right now for us. I feel super hopeful about where the progress we've made in the last, 20 months is crazy. And so what I hope to do is just continue that going forward and stay open and willing to opportunities that will continue to evolve this humble but mighty little girl gang comm shop that we've got going on.
So do you need to be, and do you need to work with them in DC, or when you talk about governors, can it be anywhere in the state, in the country?
Honestly, it can be anywhere in the country. I think that Capitol Hill is a really unique environment, and I feel very fortunate that I'm able to be local and be on site and, present for meetings and things like that. But I think that a lot of the technologies certainly are not contingent on a physical presence. So, we support clients literally across the country from the East Coast to Hawaii. So, we don't necessarily have that kind of limitation in terms of a physical presence. So that's why I feel really confident that we'd be able to scale, across the country.
So now you have a newborn. You have two newborns.
Yeah.
Not just one newborn. So how are you managing personal and professional life? Because it's both are new to you.
Yeah. They should tell you how hard it's going to be. I think it takes a village. First of all, I'm super, super fortunate to have an extremely supportive husband who, has been able to help me from day one with this company. I unfortunately, you can't really take a maternity leave when you're just starting. So, he was so great about kind of working with me to be able to kind of build it. I say game plan because LOL, it was just the wild, wild west for the first few weeks, but a game plan for how we were going to handle things. I have the support of my family. They're local as well. I have an amazing nanny. Umi that I love, and she is my everything. She helps. I mean, I couldn't do what I'm doing without childcare. So it takes a village. I also have the support of, my friends. They're nearby. But yeah, it's incredibly hard. I don't have a good answer for you that says like, oh, well, if you do XYZ, like magically, it will all come together and your life will be perfect. It's like every day is, is difficult. And it's hard to balance both. And I think I'm still learning it, candidly. Like I could try to like make up some fluffy answer, but the fact of the matter is it's really hard. And each day is tricky. We just have to kind of make a loose game plan and roll with it. But it definitely, I rely heavily on the support of my family and my friends to help, and just trying to give myself a little grace too. I think that's one thing that my friends are really helpful, bringing me back down when I start to spiral out, because, I sometimes like say like, there are no more hours left in the day. Like I am out of hours to do all these things. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to keep a house running, keep a marriage as well, keep, a company running, keep, a baby thriving and growing and stimulated. It's hard. It's like really, really hard.
Well, I think that one thing that I learned, Ashley, is you cannot put it all on you, because
Sure.
I remember when I first have my son, the second day at home, he stopped breathing.
Oh my God.
And I freaked out.
Of course.
And I didn't even want to wait for the ambulance. I drove fast to the ambulance to get to that hospital. And I had to drop everything I was doing in my business to take my son to the hospital. And you had the choice. Even right now, he's older, and I still have to do the same thing. Like, he took a medication, he has a reaction to it. If I was talking to you, I would tell you, I gotta go.
You gotta go. Yeah.
I gotta go. So it's just those moments, you just have to roll with them as they come in, because like you said earlier, you don't know what the day going to bring to you, especially with a newborn. When you have kids, you just don't know. And that's the whole purpose of having your own business, right? You can have that flexibility to be there for your family when you need to.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for us in particular, we had this whole vision of how, once we found out we were pregnant, how it's all going to go. And, it went completely the opposite of how you could ever expect. It was like, I had a really, really tricky delivery. My recovery was terrible. It was just like one thing after another. And you're just like, I don't know, like how much more I can take. But then you realize like the strength that you have to keep going. And I think that for us, like, even though it was terrible, the worst thing you could ever imagine, at the same time, like, here we are on the other end, 11 months later, and he's perfect and happy and healthy and just started walking and so
the best moment.
Yeah, it's funny. I told my friends the other day, I was out of town. My husband had Jack, and I said to one of my girlfriend's fiancés, I was like, "Oh yeah, Jack is so funny right now. He's so chatty. He's always so social, and he loves to be moving around." And he stopped me and was like, "I wonder where he got that from." And I was like, "Oh, he's like literally my child." Yeah. So, but it's great. We love our family. We love hosting. We love having people here all the time. We need the extra set of hands. So I'm all for it.
We all do. Yes, actually. Yeah. You can't do it alone. I mean, like, even God couldn't create the world alone. So that's why we're here. I felt like.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm just so grateful for the support that I surround myself with the right people that, can help encourage me, because I think of like the negative headspace I was in my old role. And it's just like, I could have never kept doing that. It was just such like a toxic environment for me. I just like, it was terrible. It was so scary and it was really sad, but like I needed to make the change. I needed to grow. And, I think I have like a really weird relationship and dynamic now in that sense, because it's sad. Like it's somewhere you dedicated so much of your life, and to see like where it is now is obviously sad, but at the same time, like, got to run a company. And
Exactly. And I think that one great thing you are accomplishing the past few months is one, you and your husband has been trying so hard to have a baby. And God
Mhm.
bless you both with that. And
Yes,
you have to look up to that every single day, because there's other women out there, families that's trying so hard as well and never accomplish that. So
100%. I mean, I thought I was going to be one of them. I mean, we had tried, and I was just like, I was so frustrated. I was so, and it creates a lot of like tension. You're like frustrated with your body. You're like, this is the one thing I'm supposed to be able to do, and I'm not able to do it. It's tough on your marriage because, there's just so much extra pressure. And, I had to really come to terms with like, okay, like, I guess it's just like, isn't working right now. And so I'm going to focus my effort on something else. And then
And then
I'll
also look at the second thing you have to look at it, Ashley, is the fact that you have freedom. Look at it, if you have that
yeah.
newborn and you are working for a company, you would have been the same way it is right now. So right now you
I
have more
literally can't
freedom.
even I can't even imagine. I think that there would be moments where certainly like it would have been nice to have a maternity leave. Like I think that's really the only thing I would have really like enjoyed was like, but at the same time, the folks at my organization right now, they were so supportive and so amazing, in terms of stepping in and helping me. Like, I just like I love them so much. They know how much they mean to me because I wouldn't have been able to do it. I mean,
Yes, so you're not alone.
yeah,
So now, well, I have one last question for you before I let you go. So
sure.
there's so many women in the world, and even with COVID, the pandemic, and everything that happened for the past few years, a lot of women have lost their job, and they have to start their own company and do their own thing to
Mm-hmm.
survive, and at the same time also raising a family. And I know you have been doing it for a short term, but you have experience to it. So what advice would you give to women that is going through the same thing you are going through right now, having a company and a newborn?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a magic formula for that, but what I would tell women is one, to go do it. Like you'll always, like we talked about earlier, the biggest thing for me was looking back and thinking, what if? And I think, for me, I realized I was passionate about communications, and I was really passionate about Congress. So I focused in on the passions and the things that I felt strong about. I found kind of what a unique approach would be with my company. So what your passions are, what sets you apart, kind of what's your competitive advantage. I also had a great, network of relationships too, obviously, that helped fuel that. Um, and then you also, at the same time, you have to prioritize your health and your family in conjunction with launching your farm or your own company, because, there can't be a company without you. Like you have to take care of yourself to be able to be put in a place, that you can actually succeed in your professional life. You need to be there. I tell myself like that self-care isn't just, working out or whatever, eating healthy, but it's also just like taking your medicine, making sure you get enough sleep. It's like sometimes just the most basic things to take care of yourself enable you to be the best version of yourself, to not only be a parent, but also to be a leader in business. But if you find somebody that has a better answer to that, please let me know, because please send them my way. I'd love to have a because I have no
um,
idea.
how can someone reach out to you for your support in your business?
Excuse me?
How can someone reach out to you for your support?
Yeah. So, I mean, I try to have, I'm right now working on my website, so it'll be up there soon, but, people can call me, email me, LinkedIn. I try to, keep an active profile there. I'm also on Instagram, but it's really just photos of my dogs, my baby. But, that's another, avenue. I'm happy to grab coffee with people locally or hop on a Zoom meeting, and connect, virtually. I really try to make myself accessible. So, if people have questions, I know it's not the most exciting story that I have, but, I'm happy to share what I've learned along the way with anybody who might be able to benefit from it.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for giving me the chance to talk to you and to learn more about your company, because it's unique. Your company is unique. It's not something that I'm used to. So it was very exciting to like, what is that about? I really can't wait. So it's kind of... It's
congressional communications. They're wild. Yeah. But honestly, politics sometimes feels like such a black hole. People just don't really understand. Like everyone's just pissed off, but they don't really get, why.
Exactly.
And it's so partisan. It's really, I think, it's certainly a unique kind of field to operate within. I love it. I'm a political junkie, so for me, it's great, but, I definitely can imagine that it's not something you probably come across all the time.
Exactly.
Comms for members of Congress. So I get it, but, happy to share. Hopefully it was helpful, at least learning a little bit more about what our firm does, and helping to provide some insight into, somebody who's trying to juggle all the plates at the same time and keep all the plates spinning.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.